Let me take in some of this. Sorry, fam, let me get in.
Put aside a bird. He said
Uncle Danjuma, you mind if I film?
that's all right. Thank you for asking. Yeah.
I respect.
So, the former president, Sadiq al-Mahdi, said to me directly, I'm sitting with him in his house in Mulazmin in Oman in Sudan, just like I'm speaking with you now. And he said to me, son, this man is no relation of ours. We allow it because at least he is getting the Muslim community, the black community together. If one fewer woman is a prostitute on the streets of Bushwick Brooklyn, Bushwick Avenue.
Big up good fellas. Respect for the 20.
One less person, thank you so much. If one less person is a drug addict and it's because of Imam Isa, then alhamdulillah. Yeah, but he said for the record, so I came back to London and I said, look, this does not sit comfortably with me, that not what Sadiq said, but what Imam Isa said. So I know the movement from that. So, but that wasn't the main point I was going to make. I said to Sadiq al-Mahdi, why is it our people, in looking for their African selves, they look towards Ethiopia, Rastafari, they look towards ancient Egypt, chematology, or they look towards Sudan as I am now? He said, because you people are mixed Africans through the history of slavery, and you have been so indoctrinated in hating the blacker side of your ancestry. You let me land, brother. It's video. Let me land. It becomes an argument too soon. Let me build up my case and then you can jump in. You know what I'm saying? Let me build it up. What he's saying is, because I know where you're coming, Horn of Africa. I get to the Horn of Africa. I get there. I get there. Right? What the brother was saying is this. Because we have been so made to feel, you know, yes, we used to have the situation in the Caribbean, but not just the mulatto, the half black, half white. You had the octoroon, the quadroon first, which is 3 parts white, 1 part black. Then you had the octoroon. You do that one in 8s. Then you had the Mustafino. Then you had the white person. So you had gradations where people were favored and had preferred and given advancement the more white blood they had. It wasn't just like house slave and field slave. It was on the basis of, all right, we have a mulatto. His father is a white plantation owner or an overseer. His mother is a slave. But then you have the child, that mulatto child, who is, they consider the child more houseworthy. They put that child in the house, she gets raped again from a white man. That child is called an quadroon. And again, the product of that child with a white person is an octoroon. So we have a situation in the West, from Canada to Brazil, you're not blacks in Argentina, but we'll talk about that later, where black people have always felt you had to upgrade the brown paper bag mentality. You had to upgrade. So with a lot of our conscious movements, we still couldn't get completely in our mind, we couldn't conceive of a God who looked like Marcus Garvey. He had to look like Haile Selassie. He had to look like Fard Muhammad. He had to be lighter skinned. You know, he had to be the lightest skinned black person in America. Those people, because of the 1-drop rule, would be considered black. However, in the Arab world, because the 1-drop rule works the other way along the patrilineal line, if your father is the Arab, it doesn't matter what your mother is, you're an Arab. So that's why a lot of Arabs get confused when they see Colin Powell saying he's black. But they look at the man and say, but you look like an Egyptian. You look like an Arab. As far as he's concerned, he's black because of the 1-drop culture in which he was brought up. So Sadiq al-Mahdi was trying to say to me, a lot of black movements, early black movements, they gravitated towards Northeast Africa because the features of the people coincided with theirs. They were more comfortable with those features. Ancient Egypt, of course, is a special case, and I'll develop that before I let you come in, which is that ancient Egypt also had writing. The development of writing is like the development of the wheel. You have to conceive of the development. The quantum leap in communication with writing is like the information age today. So Can you imagine how much more Islamized India might have been if the Hindus did not have their scriptures written down in Sanskrit? One of the reasons why India managed to resist the encroachment of Islam was largely because you had the, I think you call them Upanishads, Vedas, Ramayana, Mahabharata, the books in Sanskrit. They had a language, so once you've written down your scripture, you can codify it, you can discuss it, you can debate it, you can upgrade it. And once you can subject your culture to debate, when an incoming belief approaches, and you have to have that dialogue. You have ways, you have arguments already preset. Exactly. With ancient Egypt, what people like about ancient Egypt, as I often say, is the concept of Romantica Gloriana, as opposed to Romantica Primitiva. Romantica Primitiva would be what would typify the negritude movement of Aimé Césaire, Frantz Fanon, Léopold Sédar Senghor, the first president of Senegal, which was that, how they would put it simply is, l'émotion est nègre et la raison est laine. L'émotion est nègre et la raison est laine. Emotion is black, but reason is European, is Greek. What they were saying is, we have an internal set of cultural norms the white man will never understand. It's an understanding as overstanding. It's not something you can just learn from books. And they were content to say, we who built neither cathedral nor spire, and that sort of thing. Now, that was the first president of Senegal who was one of the proponents of negritude. However, his political rival and far more intellectual contemporary, Professor Sheikh Anta Diop, came and said, excuse me, you are only repeating the history the white man has taught you. We were not just the Batwa, what people call the Pygmies, or the Kong, or the Khoisan of the Kalahari. We were not just those. We in fact, yes, did build temples. We did build pyramids. We did invent writing. So we are both. We are both Romantica Primitiva, like you are praising President Senghor, but we are also more than that. We are also Romantica Gloriana. In fact, it is we are the foundations of ancient Crete, and ancient Crete is the foundation of ancient Greece. So we are indirectly or directly the foundation through ancient Egypt, Kemet, of European civilization. So our people tend to choose one or the other. Not a lot of people say I'm proud to be a pygmy. You may notice that. That's also because we come from a Haitist society. How many people here say, how many women, there are no women here today, how many women say here, I'm so proud my boyfriend is 5 foot tall. Not a lot of women. We live in a Haitist society. All right, so not a lot of people praise pygmies. Yet, if you look at some documentaries of how they build bridges that span rivers in the Congo, the sheer ingenuity is staggering. Now, if you look at any documentary of how the Kong or the Khoisan of the Kalahari make tiny little dart-like arrows, so ingeniously crafted, they can bring down an animal as big as an eland. That's the biggest antelope on earth, right? They managed to do this by the clever use of poisons and how the instrument is crafted. When you consider this, it has its own workings, its own logic. Now, most of our people have been programmed, in a sense, understandably so, to prefer pyramids and temples and writing, because it's closer to what we know. We're in a cash economy here. We all dress like this, and this is similar to what was happening in ancient Egypt, settled urban society. And for that reason, I understand, but what I will not have any patience with is the assumption that ancient Egypt is the be-all, end-all, and the final word when it comes to civilization in Africa. As a matter of fact, I'll go further and say, I have a strong suspicion that when more is done to unearth the sands of the Sahara, much will be discovered. They're seeing it already through satellites of cities and the places under which is now covered in sand that have laid the foundations for Egyptian or Kemethian civilization. It's just that when the desert began to spread and when desertification set in between 7,000 to 2000 BC, large numbers of those people abandoned what they had there, moved towards the rivers. You would go towards the Nile or the Niger. And for that reason, you find a lot of the Nilotic people resemble a lot of the people from Senegal. So you have people in Senegal like the Serer. You have people in Senegal like the Wolof. You have people in Senegal who look like the Dinka, the Nuer, Fulani, right? Who look like the Dinka. Well, the Fulani are a bit red because the Fulani represent the mixture. Now, what's happening in history today is a kind of a refraction on this new knowledge that you find all over YouTube. Much of it is not peer-reviewed or accredited. So you find a lot of people repeating stuff that is what I call circular reporting. Somebody started a rumor and it just goes around and gains traction because it sounds good. Now, it may be some people came out of ancient Egypt that are today living in West Africa, but we should not overstate that case. There's a problem with exaggeration where people are saying, you're almost left with the impression West Africa was empty, like the forest, which has all that food and animal life to support human existence, was completely empty until people left ancient Egypt and settled in Ghana, which is today Ghana, and Burkina Faso, and Nigeria, and so on.
The focus seems like it's on Egypt or something.
I contend that some people came, and they may, if they came with writing and rudiments of superior civilization, notice my hands, I see why many of the people living there who intermarried with them would like to exaggerate their claim to being from outside. I see why that would happen. But when we today in this modern world do that, to me it's an insult to Mother Africa. Let me repeat that again. I think it's an insult to Mother Africa when we have 5% Arab blood, 5% European blood, and we're claiming that we're Europeans or Arabs. This is my contention with this Hebrew claim too. I do not doubt that some people who, because at the time of Abdul Karim al-Maghili, he oversaw a massacre of Jews in a town, I think it's either in Morocco, Toat. It's Morocco or Algeria, one of those places. And many of them fled into the desert. Many of them fled into, some of them ended up in Timbuktu. So if you had some Jews from North Africa who settled in Timbuktu, and of course they continued their job as traders, it is not stretching the imagination that they'll get married to women there. And it's not stretching the imagination to conclude that as the generations go by, the third generation, people calling themselves Jews will be black. Because along the patrilineal line, there was a Jew who escaped the massacre of the Jews of Toat by Abdul Karim al-Maghili. Muhammad Abdul Karim al-Maghili. I forget, 1400, I don't know when it was. You can Google that. So, what I'm trying to say simply is this, brother, that we cannot make the minority the majority. We can't take a handful of Jews in Timbuktu and write a book called From Babylon to Timbuktu and act like if that book has any scholastic validity. It's a lot of supposition with a lot of gaps in between, none of which is substantiated, attempting to make a case for the presence of Jews in Timbuktu, which could be more easily made by saying these are descendants of survivors of a massacre in North Africa who are children of traders. That's all there is to that case, and you close that case. But when you extrapolate that Hebrews, black people are Hebrews, and all black people are Hebrews, and all Hebrews are black people, you oversimplify your case. But what I find dangerous about it is you take the African continent, which is rich. Like what did one Congolese writer say? God lost his wallet in the Congo. That's a standing joke. But listen to what I'm saying. God dropped his wallet in the Congo. That's a standing joke. That is the kind of wealth you find in just one part of the African continent. So am I now going to say I'm a Hebrew and abandon the African continent and go and live in a dusty little piece of ground called Israel, where the Sea of Galilee is poisoned, what's the other river, Jericho River, whatever river called, Jordan River is poisoned, and that's why they're meddling in Igbo land and telling the Igbos that they're Hebrews. Why? Igbo land is the richest part of Nigeria. It has oil, it has all that water, it has fertile agricultural land, and they're whipping up these damn fools. Of course they want the foothold there. They're looking at China, they're looking at India, they're looking at the Lebanese, they want their peace too. Now, I understand that. What I will not understand is my people buying into that stupid narrative. My people are becoming what you call collaborators, man.
The people need to just research more, isn't it?
Huh?
Learn more about themselves, research more, find more about themselves.
Well, look, there's something willful about it. The Igbos have always been considered to be the Jews of West Africa due to their ingenuity. They say you take a gun and show it to an Igbo, he look again, he make a gun for you. An Igbo will make a gun. They're enterprising, they're business people. I suspect it's because the Igbo started with fewer prejudices than most of the peoples of Nigeria who were colonized by the British. The northern Nigerians, the Hausa, upon whom the concept of indirect rule was rolled out by Lord Lugard, so-called Lord Lugard. They had a system of emirates and caliphates in northern Nigeria. So they were resistant to European ideas. They suspected everything that was European. The Igbos started from a different playing field. So the Igbos learned, look, the best thing we can do is soak up as much of this white man's culture as possible, with the result that the Igbo embraced Western education far more readily than, say, the Northern, some of the Yoruba and some of the Hausa. So with that, they became the enterprising members of the population. Now, where they get from the word Igbo to Hebrew, that linguistic stretch, I don't understand how they came about that. Because a lot of things in different languages sound the same. But if essences and appearances were the same, there'd be no need for science. Hear what I say again, let me repeat that for you. If essences and appearances were the same, there would be no need for science. And we need to get a little more scholastic and a little more academic and a little more intellectual. I don't mind us being emotional, we got that. But what I need us to do is to stop and say, all right, why the Romans used to do it? They said when a Roman found a body, you heard me say this before, when the Romans found a corpse, they used to ask the question, cui bono? Whom does this murder benefit? Cui bono? Whom does, the first question a detective has to ask, what's in this for who? Who gains from this? And what I need our people to understand is, ask those questions. Why are damn fool people saying they're Hebrews? What black people trying to say they're Hebrews? It's just one more damn thing to worry about. I mean, I'm Muslim, he's Christian, we got enough religions as it is. You want another one to fight over? It's like, well, we don't have enough squabbles as it is. So my view of this Hebrew thing, especially the American ones, I forget what they call them, who hate Africa, that should ring alarm bells in anybody's head who is black. Immediately, anybody who cares about, you don't have to be black, man, just care about the African continent, because that's your mother, right? If anybody seriously cares about Africa, ask yourself, why you got a bunch of Hebrews saying we are either the original Aborigines of America, that maybe they don't make, somebody else making that claim, if not them. Either there's that claim, or there's the other claim where, I don't know how they got to America, but they came as slaves, but they're not African. So, I don't even want to go to DNA for that, because that's too basic.
I think a lot of them say that they came over from Israel, and then they was living there.
They're from Babylon to Timbuktu myth. That same nonsense. Well, I think I exploded that. We talked about that just now, the Babylon to Timbuktu rubbish. That book is a plagiarization and a reproduction as fact from the speculations of J. Williams, who wrote a book called Hebrewisms of West Africa in the 1920s, from the Nile to the Niger with the Jews.
I think Uncle Taz on his way down right now.
The guy said, the man who wrote the book said, this is speculative. The man who stole the research and ran with it said this is fact. And that's the kind of lazy scholarship, or perhaps dangerous scholarship, that I don't want any part of. And this is what I'm trying to explain, why we like ancient Egypt so much, or why we like pale-skinned Africa so much, why we obsessed with certain parts of Africa, why Selassie why the god of Rasta has to look like Selassie, why the Nation of Islam god, Fard Muhammad, got to look like that, why we all got to be the lightest skinned black people ever. We're always going for the lightest skinned black people, and that goes back to me, in my opinion, transatlantic slavery and the whole mulatto, quadroon, octoroon system of the lighter you are, the more preferment and advancement in the system of slavery you were given, and that lives on with us today. And that's my point. You wanted to ask me a question.
He heard everything. He heard everything.
Yeah, Uncle Ty, I hope you got that message. Questions to ask yourself.
Speak on, brother.
Questions to ask yourself. For the Hebrew Israelite stuff that you're talking about, you know what I'm saying? You want to be judging people. I told man from the beginning, it's a very selfish concept. Do you know what I'm saying? And I don't understand, because your God seems to be selfish anyway. You know what I'm saying? He seems to be emotional. He seems to not want you to worship other gods other than him. So there are other gods out there. Let's stop playing. You know what I'm saying? And the genealogy to say that you are a Hebrew Israelite, especially the Israelite bit, descendants of Jacob. Really? In 2018, this is what you're going to be telling people. We can understand that you want to identify, as Uncle said, with yourself or the continent. Do you know what I'm saying? But pick an ideal that is more realistic and not based in the book of the oppressor. Plain and simple. Bye.
All right then.
I think what is important for us to try to understand is that there is more than one way you can be African. And we should not do what the slave masters did to us. As a Muslim, I have no truck with trying to proselytize and convert and force people to believe things they're not ready for or they don't want to hear. But nobody forced me where I am today. And I wouldn't do that to anybody else. And I would hope that the Christians in this audience, you can be African, you can be Christians. The Ethiopians, they've been Christians from before 4th century under King Ezana. I'm not saying it was always rosy for the other people who lived in Ethiopia. There were problems too, but like it is what it is. These people have been, so to me, when I talk about Christianity, I'm not just speaking about what the white man brought to Africa. There have been indigenous forms of Christianity. There's Nubian. You with me?
I'm with you.
There have been Nubian Christianity, right? There's Coptic Christianity. There's Ethiopian Christianity. And if these people have indigenized their Christianity, and it's a part of their culture, and people have no problem with peaceful coexistence, I too have no problem with that. What we're having with a lot of neo-African beliefs in the modern world today is they're behaving like the same Christianity they came from, and they're saying that they're rejecting. I.e., I'm a Kemetist. I believe in Kemet. I believe in Ma'at. Ma'at is the only way. If you believe in the Ifa or Risha system of the Yoruba, you are wrong. Now, where do you get that from? You know where you got that from? Your days of being a Christian. That's where that comes from. Where I have a particular I practice Dogon spirituality. You practice Ifa or Risha. What makes yours better than mine? That's happening a lot, and in our conscious community, people are cannibalizing each other. You have people proselytizing like when they were Muslim and Christians. In that same sort of way. Now you got to ask yourself, are we facing the psychosis of the Americo-Liberian once again? You know the history of the Americo-Liberians. Yeah. They were freed, they were returned to Monrovia to make a place for repatriated Africans, but they took all the prejudices of the white man and imposed it upon the ethnic or the people who are living in the land before them. I don't want to say I've used careful language because they came from the land too, but they returned after whatever 200 years of slavery. They came back there, but the Barclays and all these families began to behave the same way. They brought their American slave prejudices to bear on how they administered those people of the interior, the Gola and the different ethnic groups in Liberia. And I'm having a problem with the way a lot of our indigenous beliefs are reflected upon each other in the conscious community. There's a lot of cannibalizing, a lot of infighting, and to me, now I understand where some of it could come from. If you have, for example, because I'm trying to argue both parts here. I don't want to just be on one side. Let me try to look at both sides here. If you have a situation where, for centuries, Islam and Christianity has had a well-crafted argument battering you with a book, you're going to respond the same way. And I get that. But then you have these communities attempting to turn guns on each other. Oh, I am practicing voodoo of down the Benin. I'm practicing voodoo. It is superior to Ifa. And that sort of thing.
Okay, let me ask you a question, Uncle, yeah? Because I hear what you're saying, but from my perspective, I see far more still today, Abrahamic suppression of those traditions. Like I've got an African spiritualist here, and I've been to all kind of different ceremonies of all kind of different people, all kind of different expressions of African spirituality, and there's never been a problem, yeah. In Africa, among African spiritualist circles, I'm not saying that there's not debate sometimes, but I see far more harmony, yeah, between voodoo and Ifa, yeah. And you know what I'm saying, but and various other different systems than I see between Christianity and Islam, and especially between Christianity, Islam, and African spirituality. Yeah, so both Christianity and Islam may have mutual respect for each other. Judaism may have mutual respect for each other, but when it comes to African spirituality, when it comes to Ifa, when it comes to voodoo, when it comes to Kemetic spirituality or any other spiritual system on the continent, it's very aggressive. Yeah, and I'm seeing far more division between African spiritual systems and Abrahamic systems, if that makes sense, than I have seen between African spiritual systems. I just want to
no doubt. Truth, look, facts are facts. I'm speaking to you as a practicing Muslim, and that is a fact.
I know you're
that's a fact.
From West Africa days. So
yeah, your father's Mandaka.
Yes.
Yeah, I know that. That's why I thought I recognized the face.
Yes.
You see, the truth is this: we have to realize, Africa is sufficiently vast and varied, not just ethnically, racially, culturally, to admit the plurality of cosmologies and beliefs. What we have to find a way to do is say, unity that we want, will the unity of Africa be predicated on the detraction of the subtraction of some people's beliefs? Mao had to do that in the, what revolution?
China.
Mao Zedong.
Yeah, China.
Yeah. What was the name of the green?
Industrial.
The Cultural Revolution. He had to say things like, if you have to make an omelette, you're going to be forced to crack some eggs. Now, I want all of us to be winners. I don't want there to be losers in Africa. So when we talk about the Kong of the Kalahari, I want us to celebrate their beliefs as much as we celebrate the beliefs of the Orisha people. We have to. We can't just say, all right, the Yoruba belief is more codified, it's more coherent, it's more developed. Forget about the Khoisan. Forget about them.
No, I agree.
And this is one of the problems I'm trying to anticipate what we need to head off. We need to put that in our minds, that there is, all right, of course, in belief systems, there will be some beliefs that are more intrinsically attuned to the 21st century than others. That's a fact. But it's how we deal with other people who aren't there that will be the making of the Africa that we're looking for. I think, personally, the word unity, we belong to a group called the African Corp, and we have a t-shirt. I should have brought my t-shirt today. The t-shirt has a motto: one language is West African language, and one language is East Africa. Kankiling, Umoja. For the Swahili speakers, you already know Umoja. Yes, Umoja. Umoja. Umoja, not Moja. All right, unity.
What's Umoja?
Yeah.
Umoja means what?
You are not listening, brother. Don't turn to me. You're not listening. All right, Umoja. Kankiling is Mandinka. Why I use Mandinka? The first book that really got us hyped into Africanity in the West was Roots. We may take issue with Alex Haley a bit. He embroidered a couple facts here and there, it's true.
Nothing wrong with that.
Forgivable. But Mandinka was the language that really got us understanding our African selves through the book Roots, written in the mid-70s. Kankiling is a Mandinka word meaning unity. Moja is an East African word, Swahili, meaning unity. So that's the motto. The problem is, I am beginning to wonder, and people here can contribute to this, will this unity be predicated on a denial of the beliefs of some parts of Africa, of the culture of some parts of Africa.
But are you saying that you're seeing that tendency now?
I'm trying to head it off. I think it's going
You're
to happen.
anticipating it? Okay.
Yes, because in order...
I'm not seeing it. That's what I'm asking the question. Where?
I'm saying it. I mean, it's what we kind of discussed the other day. Like when diasporans.
Yeah. But that's the
have
first
an idea. No,
that's
have
what
an
we discussed
idea
it though.
of
He's
their
saying on the
own,
continent.
of their own continent. They have an idea and a theology of their own continent. Yeah. But negating again, as I said, remember, because everybody who was around was from the continent.
But we
so
disagree.
some things seem strange when they're explaining something. You get what I'm saying?
No, but brother, you're talking about on the continent itself.
Those who
and the diaspora.
Right. And but I'm saying, because to me, I disagree with your perception. Yeah. In the sense that I don't, generally speaking, from one traditional African spiritual system to another, I don't necessarily see a negation. Yes, I don't generally see that. Now, if you're saying that you're anticipating something, I can appreciate that. Because of the tendencies that we've learned, especially coming through this period of oppression, we may carry certain things and develop certain tendencies among ourselves, and I think it's wisdom, yeah, to really prepare for that possibility. Yeah, what I'm saying, and that's why I would agree with that. I'm just saying that I was wondering if you're speaking to something that you're seeing, because I want to know more about what you're seeing. I mean, we had a disagreement the other day in relation to what the brother just saying, because I'm saying that coming from a diaspora perspective, like we have to appreciate when we say in the diaspora, yeah, we have expressions that are dominant in the diaspora that come from the tradition that we carried into the Caribbean, into the Americas. So, for example, I would say that Ifa tradition is the biggest, yeah, as far as the diaspora. You find it in more places in the Americas than, say, Akan tradition, which is my personal lineage. But I don't see in diaspora, for example, people fighting over Lukumi or Santeria. Yeah, this is what I'm saying, or Kumina and Obia. You know what I mean? I don't.
Point of order, in Cuba,
Yes.
there was a problem between Santeria and Palo.
Right.
The Palo tradition apparently may have come from the Poro Secret Society of Sierra Leone, but it may have some accretion to Efiki Bibio in Rivers area in Nigeria. Now, because their traditions were secret society, the very nature of the Poro is secret, for other practitioners, they're doing things that they're not allowing us to witness. And therefore it must be sorcery. It must be obia. And that was a problem. So there is a, but that's minor. But I like to bring up, I like to invoke these things because you're a thinking young man. We gotta give each other things to think about. Sometimes these things do happen. What I'm saying is, I'm actually looking at the African continent in a different way. I feel that Africa, the word Africa, is too small a tent at times under which to shoehorn all of our different ethnicities with their different worldviews and cosmologies. And we have to think in terms of Pan-African unity in a different way. I need you, we all need help in forming something that does not rob some ethnicities. A good example would be somebody who was speaking Swahili to me. You're Tanzania. It was fairly okay. You could get a large number of people to agree to speak Kiswahili in Tanzania, even though they speak Chaga, they speak Sukuma, they speak Hey, they have their local languages. They could agree in a way that other African countries have agreed on English. They have agreed on Kiswahili. But in a place like Nigeria, it's a bit more difficult. 200 languages at least, and 3 or 4, 5 dominant ones, not just 3, 5 dominant ones. So what we need now is, how do we imagine a very good unfolding case is South Sudan, and South Sudan should represent to us a golden opportunity because it's a new African country. It's a new country. It's free of a lot of the problems that other African countries had of too much Christianity or Islam. So I often speak with their leaders. I speak with their analysts, and I say, look, you have a golden opportunity to develop your Dinka or your Bari, different ethnic groups, cosmologies, and see how you go with them. And he's saying we have the same problem already. The Nuer, or the Nat, and the Geng, the Dinka, are the two major dominant ethnic groups are at each other's throats already. They are already having problems, and it would be difficult to speak in terms of linguistic unity, because you have over 25. In fact, I think he counted for me about 40 languages in the South Sudan country. Forget not Sudan, just the new country, South, 40 languages. about 5 dominant ones.
Have you heard of a brother called Jean-Claude Mboli and Kwesi Pra? Yeah.
The Ghana man.
Yeah, he lives in South Africa now.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
because they're doing a lot of groundbreaking work in terms of African languages, yeah, and looking at the common origins, yeah, of the language systems, yeah. So Mboli's from Congo. Crazy Pass from Ghana, he lives in South Africa.
Yeah, I know.
And they're running like literacy projects and them kind of things there. But they're looking at one of the things that they're doing, which I found mind blowing, is looking at the commonalities of the languages and creating written forms of the languages that can be mutually understood, yeah, across the different. Because if you look at when you look at one country that has 35 languages, oftentimes the different languages have relatability, yeah, or levels of what they call mutual intelligibility among them. So they might be 75% mutually intelligible because they have a common origin. Yeah? And so I'm saying that I see one of the solutions to what you're talking about, us getting to know ourselves and our culture even deeper, because then we might be able to intuitively see, just through something like language, how we're actually more linked. So that a person doesn't necessarily feel like they're losing a part of their language, they're just actually getting a deeper understanding of, you know what I'm saying, that language
I
is.
study linguistics.
Well, in Tanzania, this was workable because they all speak Bantu languages in Tanzania.
So that's the point. There are no such things really as different languages. You know what I'm saying? They're all just different dialects of the same language. You know what I'm saying? The words have different meanings in different. You know what I'm saying? If I'm Khoisan and you're one neighbouring tribe, for example, you know what I'm saying? The words just might mean different things, but the tone is the same.
Similar language.
You know what I'm saying? So this has been, and the only unifying where you can see the unification of the language is like in Egypt or Kemet or whatever you want to call it, where they had a system that everybody could universally understand because it's all based on two base languages that are really just the one language. You know what I'm saying?
I want to disagree a little slightly, if I may. I hope you don't mind. I take issue with this.
Go ahead.
The problem with language in Africa varies from region to region. If you take the languages of South Sudan, some of them are Nilotic languages, and some of them are not. Some of them are like Equatorial Nilo-Saharan language. Niger Congo, some are Bantu languages, and that it presents a difficulty because if you take, like you mentioned, Oi, these are click languages. Now, the Zulu and the Xhosa may have borrowed the clicks, but clicks are not indigenous to Zulu or to Xhosa. They are not. They borrowed a few of them. The languages that have them most developed would be Oi languages, and their languages are actually in a linguistic group on their own. And it is the same with if you take Ethiopia, for example. A lot of the languages would be Cushitic languages.
Right, so would you say written language is progression or regression? Considering the origins of language.
Given the direction of the world today, I say it's progression. Given the direction of travel we're in, you cannot do without it.
And being who
Can
we
I
are.
speak? When I get the chance, please, to speak, I'm listening to it then.
And being who we are as people, you know what I'm saying? And individuals and knowing our past capacity and capability, you're going to say that writing things down, because you have to remember, you understand, is progression. I think it's
given the direction of I'm telling you, given the direction of travel in the world today, if you look at how empires were developed in Africa, the reason you have the advantage in areas like Ghana, Mali, Songhai, Kanem Bornu, Aksum, Kemet, it was largely because of writing. They were able to disseminate and spread their beliefs through writing. They could impress people, trade, keeping accounts. If you're doing trans-Saharan trade across the Red Sea, Ethiopia with the Arabian Gulf. If you're doing trade, you're doing it by keeping accounts. So in order to keep accounts, you have writing systems. And this is where, that is one of the attractions Islam had in places like Jenne and Timbuktu. The fact that yes, so I believe the direction of travel in which the earth is going, writing is a positive thing.
Right, so did we originally use language?
Spoken word.
Language. Did we always use spoken word?
I'd say, yeah, humans always spoke first.
So the click
Came first.
is spoken.
First.
I mean, is it words or language?
I think your camera stopped recording in a way.
Language.
So what's the first written click language?
I can't answer that. What I can answer is that spoken language predates written language. Spoken language predates long centuries before humans knew how to hold a quill. They spoke. Yeah.
So is it progression or
Well,
regression?
you're making a good point because with emoticons.
It's a good question.
No,
I-
I've given him an answer, but I want to also backtrack a little on my answer by saying we have got a system of computer speak nowadays where they use emoticons, which is almost going back to like hieroglyphs.
It's true.
It's almost going back. It's a weird thing where you're talking to some friend and you want to be brief.
yeah. The whole thing is,
and it's like so there is that. But I think with a crystal ball into the future, that may not supplant writing as we understand it today. I think the direction of travel is writing.
So which one is more sufficient? Is mouth to ear or
Writing depends on the
Depends
context.
on the context. I'd say that, yeah, it depends on the context.
Context.
I say it depends on the context.
Context.
But for me, I think even more importantly, more fundamentally, it depends on the language. So because of the relationship between language and culture, yeah. So I'm saying that beyond writing or speaking, it's the language and the cultural expression. Because I'm saying that whereas we've got so much problems getting a unified language in different countries on the continent, but it seems to me that there's greater division in these colonial languages. That how come we can all speak colonial languages fine, yeah? But when it comes to choosing between one of our local languages, it's problems.
The
But
amount
we all
of
speak
literature
English. We all speak.
is the amount of literature in the colonial language. You see,
Yeah.
for example, take the Portuguese,
Yes.
Angola. It
What
shocks
is
me,
colonial to start with?
brother. You're taking us backward. No, you're taking
All
us
I'm
back.
saying is all you are speaking of is
that's
false
calling-
because
that's
you know why
calling
none of
the
you want to
discussion
listen
backward.
because you know why? You choose not to listen.
Pulling the discussion
If
in
you
a
want to
different
stand
direction.
upon the truth, first must learn to listen, my brothers, yeah? So whoever wants to stand upon the truth and not off the truth must
I want to
listen.
keep a flow on this.
Because the truth is
I
one.
want- This is taking us
Walid
backwards.
Isaac's channel on YouTube, yeah?
This is taking
Because
us
the
backwards.
oppressors of truth oppress
you
the
wrong, I'm
truth.
just
So if you
filming,
want
man.
to support the truth, support
I
Walid
want to stop doing
Isaac's channel.
controversy media.
Because you know what?
You see, once you start getting people enjoying this,
Oppressors oppress
I
somebody
want to
trying
stop
to
doing
stand
this.
upon
Once it
the
starts
truth.
getting like
That's
this,
all I wanted to
I don't really want to get involved anymore. Right,
Walid
right. You see,
Isaac's channel.
what was the point you were?
I came here to see.
What was the point you were making?
No, I was saying that it's because we got
gonna
colonial
come still,
languages
it's gonna
that we
come.
operate, and so we said that our own languages we can't unite among them because we speak so many languages. But we all speak the English, we all speak the French, the Portuguese, the Arabic. We all speak those languages, yeah, and they're the most widely spoken languages that are supposedly uniting us. We can't communicate among ourselves in our own
I think it
languages.
redounds to the same point I was making before about this,
Right.
about writing.
Right.
What has happened is, and I was saying I was shocked by the extent to which Angolans feel comfortable using Portuguese as an inter-ethnic form of communication, the way Tanzanians use Kiswahili. So where we would have looked at a place like DRC and they have Lingala as a form of inter-communication, if they don't use Kikongo, they will use Lingala.
Yes.
I'm surprised to see in Angola they're using Portuguese.
Yes.
And sometimes,
But that's colonization.
yeah,
but
that is
it's
that's-
to the extent, but you'd expect that where I come from.
Nigeria is not colonization, but we speak Portuguese.
No. I'm saying no,
Just,
but
trade and-
the
but the
extent
lingua
to
franca
which-
in Nigeria is English. That's colonization. Yeah. It's this I'm
No,
saying.
no, what I'm saying, no, I'm going further.
The lingua franca.
No, what?
Hold on. What language is spoken in the legal system, the parliament, and the education system? Right. That's the lingua franca.
No, let me agree a bit here. Portuguese is a stronger influence in Angola than English is in Nigeria.
I would say
It
more
is
explicit.
extremely
because-
strong.
No, I'm not saying that, and I agree with you in the sense of the fact that you will meet people from Angola and they'll tell you that they're Portuguese. Yeah, you very rarely meet a Nigerian that's going to tell you that they're English. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, it's not different in the fundamental sense that the lingua franca of the nation is still a colonial language. Yeah, that's the similarity.
What I'm saying is, in terms of emotional relationship to
Yeah,
the language,
yeah.
here's what a Nigerian has with English.
Yeah.
He will speak English
I'd agree with you.
formally, like
Yeah.
you said in their formal.
Yes.
On the streets, they speak Pidgin.
Yes.
But when they are home,
yes.
if he's an Igbo, he speaks
Speaking
Igbo.
Igbo,
The
yes.
Yoruba man
Speaks
speaks
Yoruba,
Yoruba.
yes.
So the Portuguese influence in Angola is deeper.
Yeah. Everybody
It's
speaks Portuguese.
deeper than that.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is, I understand it comes back to the same thing called writing. Information. Once people started writing down information and disseminating it, we started to lose. And that's where we have to, I think, have to write our languages down.
This is the
we
problem.
have to.
I feel
we have
also once it started to get to the European languages in Greek and Latin, that's where the problems start, because this is where they start using ideas like codex and things like that. So once language becomes coded, you get what I'm saying? You can do all sorts of trickery and blah blah blah. Prior to that, that's not the way.
Let me give an example of what I mean. Why do so many? You've been to East Africa?
No, I've been to West.
The trouble. If you go down the Swahili coast, anybody here from Tanzania, Kenya? If you go down the Swahili coast, a large number of people answer to the appellation Arab. We're Arabs. They look.
I was gonna ask you about that.
Now here,
We discussed that as well.
Their first language is Kiswahili.
Yes.
They'll tell you they're Arab.
Yes.
The reason for that, I'm coming back to the point of writing.
Yes.
When Arabs came to the coast, they came in two major phases. They came in the phase from the early 8th century, 7th century, to 1505 when the Portuguese came and destroyed the Swahili city-state trade. Then they came with the Omanis in the 18th century, and that was for about 100 years. But in the first phase, when the Arabs came, they came as traders, they came as merchants, they came as settlers, they married and they indigenized, and they adopted. In fact, Swahili is formed a bit from Arabic. Up to 30% of its vocabulary.
But some people say as well that there's Arabic, there's Swahili in Arabic as well, but people don't talk about it.
Of course, Swahili is the second language of Oman. Swahili is in fact the second language in Oman, which is in the Arab world next to Yemen, right? So the point I'm trying to make it, no, it's a language too, because I'll tell you where. In Zanzibar, Kiunguja became the standardized form which they teach in schools as far as Uganda. Even today, it is replacing French in Rwanda and Burundi because of what happened in the genocide. So Swahili, but let me just land on this point. The Arabs came with writing. So when an Arab, just like you have a Bible and you open your Bible and you put, when you get married, you have the Bible and they put the name of the children and who their father and mother was. That's in the Christian context. In the Islamic context, it's the same. You start writing down, I am the son, just like in African culture. I am the son of so-and-so. Who is the son of so-and-so? Who is the son of so-and-so? Now, the Arab side is writing it down. It's being written down in Arabic by the Arab side. So as the children grow, and the grandchildren grow, and the great-grandchildren grow, as Muslims, but even if they're not Muslims, they're writing down concepts in the Arabic script. So the people who brought that script are Arabs. And that is why a large number, the African side, were not writing down their ancestry. So as time passed, what remains in the memory
is
the Arabic script. We are Arabs. Now in Swahili culture, however, it's not that simple. Swahilis will still tell you, we have ancestry on the right and ancestry on the left. They actually take their ancestry. They are aware that there are two sides to their ancestry. So, but there is that point about writing. That's what I'm saying. I believe, no, we have to write these languages down.
You're saying as far as the challenges of today, we have to use writing.
Yes. No, Mandarin Chinese is being taught in parts of Africa.
remember
Mandarin is being taught. So we're going to sit down and write nothing down, and next thing our children writing in Chinese ideographs. We have to get with the program. Even if we get a computer level of some sort of new computer speak and leap over the whole writing system as conventionally known. Perhaps
but as
we
long
may
as you
explore that.
as long as you acknowledge, we've gone from this to this. You know what I mean? As long as you acknowledge.
What happened centuries ago in ancient Egypt?
I'm just saying.
Centuries, Sumerians.
Africa.
You know what? Egypt is an Africa.
I know.
As a black people, we did that a long time ago.
Okay, then.
I know what we lose. I got you for going.
I could phone you with my mind.
No.
When I could phone you with my mind, we were advanced. It's regression.
Say again?
A lot of people would argue that, you know, that Arabian Peninsula, Israel, Jerusalem, all that is part of Africa.
I don't get it. I don't get into fights about that. I know, I hear that. Look, when there are arguments which I can see both sides, I don't